We are Red Star Report.
Hello again, Red Star Rebels. In this No Rest for the Wicked short follow-up episode to last week's episode 8, we're looking at the escalation of protest and confrontation under a tightening MAGA American paradigm. This is podcast season 5, episode number 9, and we are Red Star Report. And in this edition, we go to my partner in crime, Shankar Singam, for the latest Activism in Action, where Shankar breaks down the true origins and ramifications of last week's San Diego ice raid confrontation. And tonight, on Talking Points, does California independence condone the use of political violence? Spoiler alert, the answer is no. But first, the very real possibility of escalating repression of California's gay communities in America's near future, in our Voices for the California Nation. All this and more coming up on this episode, so grab your masks and signs and get ready to march, at least while you can. I'm Hal Lohr, we are Red Star Report, and this is Voices for the California Nation. In this truncated edition of Voices for the California Nation, it's hard to ignore that if Californians didn't need any more proof that America has elected one of the most homophobic, gender-insecure, and vindictive presidents in modern memory, setting off further alarm bells in the LGBTQ community, that it's very possible that after brown-skinned immigrants, queer people may be America's next target for repression and violence. Donald Trump was up late and spitting venom early Tuesday morning, threatening to slap California with large-scale fines over transgender athletes. He was posting around 1 a.m. Eastern Time on the, let's face it, ironically named Truth Social Network, attacking Gavin Newsom, ranting about biological males competing in the California state final track meet last weekend. Tweeting, Xing, Truth Social, texting, whatever. A biological male competed in California girls' state finals, winning big despite the fact that they were warned by me not to do so. As Governor Gavin Newsom fully understands, large-scale fines will be imposed. And yes, Trump's overnight post came a week after a similar threat the president made against Newsom over transgender athletes competing in California. Complete with calling the governor Newscum. Basically, it's not like anybody would ever accuse America's version of a cartoon fearless leader of being a class act or anything anyway. So, let's put aside the obvious irony that a man who has been widely reported to wear lifts, Spanx, Coppertone foundation, L'Oreal Strawberry Blonde No. 4, and won't be seen in public without spending at least half an hour with his hairdresser, is threatening California with fines to defend traditional gender roles. And focus on the fact that because this transphobic wannabe American dictator is constantly acting like transgender athletes are actually his idea of an American national identity crisis. So now the California Interscholastic Federation, or CIF, is reportedly under investigation by Trump's Justice Department as American Christo-fascist backlash grows over the participation of trans women in California's school sports programs. Really? This is a thing? Even though the reality of the entire conversation surrounding trans athletes only makes sense if it ignores the fact that according to the president of the NCAA, among more than 500,000 athletes competing at the collegiate level, there are fewer than 10 athletes who publicly identify as transgender. And even the national anti-trans advocacy group Save Women's Sports out of Minnesota could only identify 5 trans students competing on girls' teams from kindergarten through 12th grade in 2023. That group's entire existence is to hate trans athletes, and after looking across America, even they found very little to actually hate. So, if it's not a dangerous cocktail of fear and hatred, what is motivating the Trump regime to act like there's some huge epidemic of trans women competing in women's sports, when the actual numbers of trans competitors make up a fraction of a percent? And once you do, as a Californian, ask yourself, what does this threat of a financial nuclear response leveled at California from the Trump regime over trans issues say about the very real possibility of escalating repression against California's gay communities in America's very near future? This is Voices for the California Nation.
California Resistance Action Item. In these uncertain times of fear and oppression, you can find LGBTQ and transgender crisis support resources at the Los Angeles LGBT Center, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. at 323-860-3799 or online at Center South at lalgbtcenter.org.
Donald Trump is threatening to defund California, but it's Econ 101. California is a donor state. We provide over $80 billion more in tax revenue to the federal government than the federal government provides to the people of the state of California. We help pay federal bills. So if Donald Trump's going to continue to threaten 40 million Americans that live in California, maybe we should consider withholding those resources.
As fallout from the ICE raid at Bona Forchetta, a San Diego restaurant, continues, Tuesday, local labor leaders held a rally in front of the federal courthouse in downtown San Diego to condemn the raid. Christian Ramirez, policy director with SEIU-USWW, called the raid a wave of terror has been unleashed by this administration, reminiscent of a dictatorship. The raid came after warrants unsealed on Monday afternoon alleged that workers at Bona Forchetta are being exploited and working 12-hour shifts without breaks. It also alleged that 19 workers there were using fake green cards to work. According to the warrant, Homeland Security received a tip about illegal workers on January 31st, 2025. Bona Forchetta said it is still reviewing the allegations made in the warrant. But that's obviously not the whole story about the raid from a California perspective. Next up, the hits just keep on coming with Activism in Action as Shankar Singam gives us a hard look at the national and racial implications of these ICE activities. Shankar, it's all you.
Good evening, Red Star Rebels. Welcome to another episode. Probably one of the last few episodes we'll be doing here, as seeing how this administration is cracking down against journalists. But let's get right into it, folks. I don't know how blind you have to be not to see what me and Hal have been talking about for the past 4 years. Before I explain, though, let's take a look at San Diego last weekend.
It's disgusting.
That right there, folks, is white settler supremacy in action. The pilgrim-rooted white dominance policy of this administration that's in effect and happening all around the United States. A response to the administration's fears of becoming the minority in the United States, including here in California and San Diego specifically. That could be coming to a neighborhood near you. And it's blatantly obvious that this is white supremacy, folks. We've been telling you this for the past 3 years. Nobody wants to address it. Nobody's doing a damn thing about it. This all started, if you remember, with birthright citizenship about 2 months ago, a month ago. They wanted to overturn birthright citizenship, the Dred Scott decision that was decided by the victor of one of the bloodiest civil wars in history. And they want to overturn that decision that hundreds of thousands of people gave their lives for, that would negate the citizenship of American-born slaves. That would mean every black folk in the United States would not be a citizen anymore. Let me repeat that. Overturning birthright citizenship would mean that every black person in America would not be a citizen anymore. This is white settler supremacy. It's rooted in the fact that these white people are losing the ethnic population and that they are going to be the minority in less than 20 years, according to Census Bureau, and it scares the crap out of them. And ending birthright citizenship is the beginning. This will happen, folks. It's going to pass. They will end birthright citizenship. Next, they are attacking immigrants that are here on a TPS, a temporary protective status. The Supreme Court just granted Trump one of the biggest gifts that he has received, overturning the temporary protective status of hundreds of thousands of people from Cuba, from Nicaragua, from Haiti. That means that hundreds of thousands of people will be deported and go back to their country of origin where they fled from out of fear. It's not in the hands of the immigration courts. Once the case has been dismissed, it's up to Department of Homeland Security who decides who stays and who goes. And they have an assimilation checklist that they're going off of that I don't know who made up and what they're basing it off, but possibly up to 500,000 people, that's a record, can be deported by this administration. This is all literally to save their skin, literally. As the administration boots these people out, they allow white South Afrikaners into the U.S. with a speedy immigration process. I mean, it's right in our faces, folks. We just have to call this out. And finally, the Trump administration is setting up the Office of Remigration. I don't know who's behind this one, but Marco Rubio is setting it up. Or whose idea this was, I don't know, but Marco Rubio is setting it up. The Office of Remigration is a term used in European countries by far-right extremists, and these policies have been implemented in Poland. Currently, the AfD is talking about it, the right-wing party in Germany. This is straight white supremacist ideology. The Office of Remigration would actively facilitate the return of migrants to their country of origin if they don't meet assimilation criteria. And this was ethnic cleansing, folks. It's basic ethnic cleansing. This is an ugly head, folks. And I wish I could call what this administration is doing. I wish I could call them Nazis, but this is far worse than what Nazis can do. Nazis don't have crap on American settler racism. They don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to pilgrim colonizing racist ideology. This country defines it. Other countries study it. Monsters are created from it. And what does this do for California? California's very fiber of its being is our international communities. That's how we become the best, the largest, the most attractive, the most liked state in the world. It's because we have an open immigrant policy. We want more immigrants coming in here. It gives us our strength. It gives us our very essence, our very fiber of being is our international community, is what makes us Californians. And if without it, we wouldn't be California. And if that's what you want, California, so be it. But if you want to fight for this state, and we have the power to do it, we have the economic wherewithal to do it, we have the population numbers to do it, the reputation and the relationships internationally to do it. If you want to fight it, then we got to follow what San Diego did last weekend. Get ready for that. But if we fight for it, Californians, we get to keep it. There's a petition out right now for a committee to explore the concept of independence. There's another petition coming out next year for 2028. Folks, sign it. This isn't the United States that you remember. This is the United States that you and I grew up on, remembering fondly. That United States is long gone, folks. This is something ugly, something evil. And this is yet, here, what I'm saying is another dire warning from me and Hal, from Red Star Report. We're telling you, you want to ignore it? Go ahead and ignore it, folks. But get your passports ready. Hal, that's all I got. Back to you.
Thank you, Shankar. For more Red Star Report commentary from Shankar Singam, you can go find him and follow him on TikTok.
Yesterday's horrific attack in Boulder, Colorado will not be tolerated in the United States of America. He came in through Biden's ridiculous open border policy, which has hurt our country so badly. He must go out under Trump policy. Acts of terrorism will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This is yet another example of why we must keep our borders secure and deport illegal anti-American radicals from our homeland. My heart goes out to the victims of this terrible tragedy and the great people of Boulder, Colorado.
This is Talking Points. In Boulder, Colorado, Mohammed Sabri Solomon, armed with a homemade flamethrower, yelled "Free Palestine" and threw Molotov cocktails at a pro-Israel group that had assembled for Jewish hostages in Gaza, law enforcement officials said last Sunday. The violence took place at the Pearl Street Mall in downtown Boulder, as frustrations at the ongoing devastation in Gaza continued to inflame global tensions and have contributed to a spike in anti-Israel violence in the United States. 8 people were injured, some with burns, and Mohammed Sabri Solomon was arrested and is expected to face hate crime and terrorism charges. Meanwhile, in the same week, ICE officials in San Diego escalated public outrage in a confrontation with people protesting a raid at the Bono Forchetta restaurant using flashbang grenades to try to disperse an angry crowd, all stemming from a rising sense of public frustration over popular issues that now appear to be impossible to resolve against an American regime that's become way too comfortable with political violence as the new American norm. So, the hashtag #NewCalExit question becomes, should the independence movement arm up and form citizens' militias in the face of U.S. political violence? Spoiler alert, the short answer would be no, but it's a complex question for many Californians who are just getting beyond disbelief and just beginning to realize the ramifications that this is happening here. And Californians now suddenly recognize that it's really come to that point where many U.S. red states and now the U.S. federal government is widely deploying heavily armed, duly deputized, masked paramilitary units on American soil. Yes, Alice is through the looking glass, and no, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. But part of the problem is, even though we at Red Star Report have been telling you this is coming for the last 5 years, the whole CalExit thing, like virtually all of the traditional American left, has been dismissive of those warnings. So simply put, for those CalExit people out there shifting gears and trying to stylize themselves now as some kind of revolutionary defenders of the people, while talking about quasi-military resistance on social media, just stop. Here's a little hint. If you're going to form some kind of militant armed resistance group to oppose U.S. fascism, probably not a good idea to announce it on Facebook, unless you really don't mind turning your entire Facebook friends list over to Trump's FBI, DOJ, and Department of Homeland Security for investigation. Sure, they won't mind. But still, should the independence movement arm up and form citizens' militias in the face of U.S. political violence? Breaking the question down, whether or not the desire for arming up is a valid concern is up to every Californian as a matter of personal choice. And with the calls for political violence coming out of armed right-wing paramilitary groups across MAGA America, many of Californians' diverse communities can feel a genuine threat. It's one of the reasons why, despite the California independence movement's firm stance on a peaceful independence, Shankar Singam and I here at Red Star Report have openly questioned the California state government's constant push for more and more gun control. Gun control measures that in 2025 ignore the American political paradigm shift to disarm ever more vulnerable, progressively minded Californians in at-risk communities. Sorry, folks. In today's gun-saturated America, that ship has sailed. But still, the question of forming up armed California resistance groups remains complicated. As far as the California independence movement as a whole is concerned, you can already bet that those First and Second Amendment rights granted to the heavily armed allies of the Trump regime would no longer offer those protections to any organized and armed California resistance effort. So, the best protection the whole CalExit thing can have at this time is for any openly organized and armed California resistance efforts to fundamentally not exist unless U.S. oppression reaches a level of open hostility that becomes absolutely necessary for it to exist. And even then, it's nothing to lightly discuss on social media because for a lot of Californians, once the Pandora's box of civil violence is open, the pain will become very real, even for those who have seriously prepared to shoulder the consequences of that fight. So again, should the California independence movement arm up and form citizens' militias in the face of U.S. political violence? Obviously, it's a hard thing to consider given the current levels of political outrage and frustration when the ultimate resistance to U.S. fascism is California independence. But the simple #NewCalExit answer goes, for individuals, whether or not to arm up and to what extent and form that should take is both yes and no, because it depends on your personal comfort level, experience, and sense of what is right. Red Star Report is not here to tell you what to do, even when we remind you that be prepared is a time-honored and sensible motto. And for forming up citizens' militias again, it's up to individuals or perhaps some organizations acting within the movement but using enough situational awareness to understand the need to protect the California independence movement as a whole, knowing that any thought or exercise of forming any kind of organized armed resistance to confront U.S. fascism must maintain at least tacit non-existence in today's political climate. Respecting the movement enough not to make any decision lightly or in self-interests that might jeopardize our California values until peaceful and legal avenues of free speech and peaceful resistance are exhausted or canceled. This is Talking Points. That's podcast number 9 for the 2025 season. Now, for the next few weeks, Red Star Report will be taking a break for some long-needed updates, but we'll be back soon. Until then, for more Red Star Report information, check out our website at redstarreport.com. Please subscribe to our Red Star Report YouTube channel. Go to our Red Star Report Facebook page, Twitter page, and Instagram page and give us a like and follow. Because if you want to support the real California independence movement's #NewCalExit media group, it's all about the algorithms. And seriously, click that link below and pledge support for our friends at listener-supported radio KPFK 90.7 FM Los Angeles. Or better yet, call them up at 818-985-5735, make a donation, and it won't hurt my feelings if you tell them they need to put Red Star Report on the radio. Because KPFK both deserves your support and a great new show. Our thanks to all our Red Star Rebels for watching. We are Red Star Report.